Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College with the fourth in a series of videos where I'm doing some form validation. In video 1 I set up the form, in video 2 I styled the form, and that form was set up to be also validated with using the built-in HTML5 validation. Now in part 3 I got myself ready to start doing my JavaScript validation. So the time has come to actually do that validation. All right. First thing that I know that I want to do here is, for lack of better words, and I still have to fix that coloring. I'm not sure what's wrong there. But I want to grab a value here, 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 etc. You can see what we're talking about. All right. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to set myself up with about 15 or so variables. So I'm going to declare and initialize my local variables, and they're local because I'm defining them right inside of here. And technically, and you know what? I'm just going to say variables. All right. So var ssn equals, and I'm going to go and tell it to grab my SSN and grab its value. All right. Now each one of these things, as you already know, or at least most of them, if not all of them, are going to have to be validated. Shift, contact via, and education, I'm not going to give values to. All right. Now I could set them equal to the empty string or something else. I'm just setting them up, period. Alright, so that's all that stuff so far. Now I could make comments over here. I didn't. Alright, I'm kind of out of room, etc. But I'm just going to leave them like that. Alright, now I'm going to start calling my validation routines. And I've got to write each one of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call validate SSN, and I'm going to pass the SSN in. Now for now, all my other validations that I'm going to write, all right, which are going to be all of these, because these are what I have to validate here and here. So about 10 or so, 1, 6, 7, about 10 of them. All right, I'm gonna put this in. All right, 10 times. I'm immediately going to comment each one out because I want to do these one at a time. The key to programming is not to see how fast you can get things done, but the key to programming is to do a little bit, check it, and do a little bit more. Check it and do a little bit more. And I'm not trying to sound funny, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm mocking or anything, but that's the way it is. And there's actually going to be a couple more. All right, so after the cell phone will be email. And we do have to take the stuff, our shift, so the stuff that was in our radio buttons and the stuff that was in our checkboxes. And we've got left password and confirm password. Just grab that to make it a little simpler. All right, and I'm not going to lie to you either. When it came to doing the stuff here that was in the radio buttons and the checkboxes, I went online and looked. There are different ways of doing it. I tried to come up with what I consider to be probably the most intuitive way of doing it. You may or may not agree as we go through this. All right, so that's everything that's in here. So now, first thing I want to do is my validate SSN. So this will be validate SSN. All right. Oh, I did put a thing in here after all this where I said alert, the current values are, and that'll be that string that I mentioned to you earlier. Don't worry about it. We'll look at that later, okay? But let's just start writing some validation functions. First thing is if the, and I know I don't have to call it SSN. Let's just call it S. I'm going to try to minimize my typing here. If S is blank, so I'm going to put here no SSN provided. All right. Now I could have checked first. I guess I could have said s.trim. That should work. I didn't do it on mine, but that probably would be cleaner. But if that's the case, what I want to do is I want to come in and say SSN error dot first child dot node value equals, and I'm just going to put it on 2 lines. I want to make sure you can read all of it. SSN required. And if that's the case, I know it's not valid, so is valid is equal to false. All right? If I get down to here, and again, I'm putting this in. This is not meant to be funny. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to put that comment here. All right? And I'm just going to put in here, some input was provided. I don't know yet if it's valid, but I know something was put in there. So I'm going to set my regular expression pattern equal to, pretty much what I showed you before, and that is, typically you put it within brackets like this, but I'm going to put it oops. All right, I think that's correct. So that's 3 digits, a hyphen, 2 digits, a hyphen, 4 digits. Yeah, I think that's correct. All right, so that's my regular expression pattern. If it doesn't match, input not in NNN-NNN-NNN format. All right, so if that's the case, then I want to say SSN must be in NNN-NN-NNN format. Again, is valid will be set to false. Else, what do I know? Well, I know valid input was provided. Not some input, valid input was provided. All right? So if that's the case, I want to take my node value, set it equal to nothing, because there's no error. And my string will be equal to all right. Now, let's give it a run. So I'm going to come through here, and I'm going to bring this in, File, open it, submit. Well, that's not a good start, so let's see what we have here. No manifest detected. I want my console. It's not giving me an error. But it's also not giving me anything there, so I'll have to take a look at that. All right. I will send a working copy of this to Mr. Gudmested. And if he decides he wants to share it with you, that's, as always, that is his prerogative. All right? Okay. So that's the first one. Next, I want to validate my first name. Okay. The good news is validate first name and validate last name are virtually the same thing. Okay, so let me just do that here for now. When you see this, and some of you probably already know this, as soon as I finish a video, I produce it right away. All right, and so I don't get too far behind. So that's what you're seeing right there. So let's see. And we'll just call this F for first name. All right, when I get done, I'm just going to copy it all because the last name, again, will be virtually the same thing. Now, I'm looking at what I've typed in here, and I've got 10 pages worth of typing, and I'm getting to page 3 right now. Plus, I am already at 16 minutes. So I'm going to try to do the first name and the last name, and then that'll be it for this tape. So if f.trim equal nothing, meaning no input provided. So no first name provided. And just like we did before, when I can, I'm just going to try to steal a little bit here. So this will say first name required, and the is valid will be set to false. All right. Otherwise, again, what do I know? Well, I know some input was provided, right? So I'm going to just grab all of this that we had before. So now my regular expression pattern is simply going to be right here. All right. A through Z, A through Z. In other words, I'm saying I'm expecting it to be letters. All right, and I'm expecting the size of that to be 1 to 50. All right, so if that matches, if it doesn't match, the input was not alpha 1 to 50 characters. So I'm going to say here first name must be alpha 1 to 50 chars. All right, otherwise it was valid, so I want to add that first name to my string that I'm building up. All right. Now I'm going to grab this entire thing right here, all of it, and I'm going to put it in. So there's the first name, there's the first name. So this will change to validate last name. Again, no last name provided. You're getting the idea, hopefully. I could leave that as F, but it's kind of confusing, so I'm going to make it L. Try to make it L. That's kind of confusing too, because it looks like a big I. So and if you look here, I goofed up. That shouldn't say SSN error. That should say FNAME error. So should that. So should that. These three should all say SSN, SSN, SSN. That's good. And these should say LNAME, last, LNAME, last, and L name, and last. So I am done with this lesson, but before I get done, let's go and look at the 3 functions that we wrote this time. All right, so far I have these 3 things written. I'm trying to validate my social security number, which I grabbed from my text box, my first name, which I grabbed from my text box, and my last name, which I grabbed from my text box. All right. In the next lecture, I will attempt to do at least address, city, state, and zip. All right. And when we look at this, so what are we doing? We're saying if nothing was provided, so if nothing was in there, we're setting the error value, which was that red asterisk, to SSN required, and is valid is set to false because it's invalid. If we get down to here, we did get some input. So we set up a regular expression pattern of 3 digits, hyphen 2 digits, hyphen 4 digits. If we didn't match that, then we tell it what the format it must be in, and again, is valid is false. If we get down to line 70 here, not only did we get input, but it was invalid form. It was in a valid format. So we set our error message equal to nothing, and we add it to this big string we'll be working with. Then we do something similar with first name. We trim it, and we see if it was empty. If it was, we say first name is required, and we set our is valid flag to false. Otherwise, if we get down to here, some input was provided. Well, that's weird, so I don't need these. So some input was provided. Some input was provided. Now we have to check and see if it's in the right format, which is simply letters 1 to 50. If it doesn't match that, all right, then it's not alpha 1 to 50, so we give an error. We set is valid to false. Otherwise, it was valid, so our F name error we set to nothing, and we add the first name to our string. Our validate last is essentially identical to our validate first. The only difference is with the last, we're passing an L, so it's L here. If there's no input, last name's provided, and the flag is false. Otherwise, some input was provided, so we again check our pattern. If it doesn't match, we set the error message to last name must be 1 to 50 alpha, and our invalid flag to false. If we get down to here, the input was valid. So we set our error string to nothing, and we add this to our string. So again, that's it for this. What I hope to do in the next lecture is to do as many of these as I can, all right? Now, I may not be able to finish it because I'm going to have students coming in within 45 minutes, but I'm going to do the best I can. And what I don't finish today, I'll finish tomorrow morning. And if I do finish all of this, I will attempt to redo this tomorrow. And I haven't done this yet myself, but using both jQuery and a jQuery validation, form validation plugin. So that's the end of this. I think it's part 4 or part D. We'll see as we get going. We save everything. And it did appear as when I ran this, nothing was happening. Which, oh, I know why. Because now I have to come down to the bottom here. And I've got to put in my script tags. Script. Source equals js/script.js and script. Now let's see what happens when we run this. I'm leaving nothing in here. I'm clicking submit. Well, it's still not giving me errors. That's not good. F12. Well, file not found in script JS1. Let's double check. Should be called script. Oh, it's called validate. I'm sorry. So let's try it again. Submit. Still not getting anything. Unexpected token at line 73. At least I'm making progress now. So let's get to line 73. Don't know why that's there, but it is. And if it's there, it might be here, and it is. And it might be down here, and it is. Save it again, and let's try running it again. Cannot read property of null. Validate 23 and 171. 23, which is in here, and 171. You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything so far in here that I am not working with yet, and I'm going to comment that out as well. Now let's quickly check line 171 here. Okay, that's validating on the form. So I'm going to have to also comment all of this stuff out. So let's see. Let's just hit enter here, and let's put it up. All right. Now let's try it again. All right, that's good. There you go. Social security number, first name, and last name are required. So if we put in something here, let's just put in a 1, and a 1. It still says required, so we'll have to check on that. I'm not worried about that right now, though. We are getting output, and that's a good thing. So again, in the next tape, the next video, I'm going to attempt to come in here and write at least those, all right? And then I'll come back and write as many of the rest as I can. I got to get going.